Hi, everybody. As you can see, Linda's here with us, Linda G, and we are going to be doing the fifth day of the lighting of the candles. Just want to say hi, Linda, and then we'll cut to the table and we'll light the candles.
Thank you, Nancy. And listen, thank you for inviting me too.
Oh,
I'm
well,
honored to be part of this.
well, it's important that we have all the perspectives in the community, and you've been working for so long to try and draw us together. And this ceremony really is to try to draw us together.
But you're like the master teacher. That's the thing with you. I talk and I'm just talking off the guides, but you have the substance, the things that we need to focus on.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We're going to light the candles today. You've
Okay.
seen the table before. The first time I did it was all red candles. Then last time it was all green candles. This time the universe said, put on all the colors, all the chakra colors, so that we can all blend our energy together. And that's what we're here doing. And we have a piece of beautiful citrine to bring us prosperity and abundance with this. And we have the incredible grounding stone of tiger's eye. And then we have the as above, so below, to the left, to the right, to the front, to the back, sign of the octahedron that's fluorite quartz. That's nature makes that. We don't make that.
That's amazing.
I know. I've seen them as big as 2 feet wide too. It's just
whoa.
But okay, so we're going to light the candles. Together we meet to light the 9 red candles in the season of Lionsgate. Lionsgate is the alignment of Sirius, the star, Earth, and the constellation of Orion. It's a time for great energetic exchange with the universe. The portal dates give a boost to the people's aspirations and allows us as individuals to manifest new ideas and enhances our spiritual energy as individuals and in the collective. As we have learned to accept our own energetic vibrations, we are also becoming aware of the energies arriving from the universe to support the changes on Gaia and ourselves. We acknowledge that these many-colored candles symbolize the expansion of energy from our own lives to balance and to balance universal shifts. We are riding the waves that are surrounding us into a better future. So that's one. Linda's day 5, and I hope I have enough gas left in my little lighter to get to day 5. I have real lighters. I mean, I have real matches if I need to.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have just enough. Nope. Okay. Hold for a second.
Okay.
People are used to very casual things happening on my channel, like this. That's 4. And this is Linda's. You got the heart chakra color. And with that, I will come back to Linda. You know, the definition of a wave is a repeating disturbance or movement that carries energy through space and matter. And we're at a meeting point where we're getting it from both directions. So I'm silent now. It's up to you.
Well, you were saying about the changes coming up, and it's so weird you're talking about this because, and somebody sent me an astrological thing from a Rick something. She said,
Rick Levine.
I think it might be Rick Levine.
Mhm.
And, I love the astrology, but I'm not an astrologer.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really, and you just got done talking when you and I were talking before this. As you were doing this, I mean, we have to stand in the light energetically because we're getting ready. There's master shifts going on. It's not as fast as it could be, but it's still happening. And I heard 2 years.
Yep, it's between now and 2025. And really, they talk about the whole world shift after 2026. It's going to be incredible. And it's really up to us to hold on to the light and to bring the light in so that we attach to the energy the right way. Because I know there are people who say they don't believe there's dark energy in the world. I don't believe that. I believe there is, I've seen it. I believe it's here. And we need to be vigilant so that we can take humanity in the best possible.
Well, the dark energy is what's working with these awful people that showed nude pictures of somebody just because.
Oh, well, I know, but
I mean, this is dark energy. This, what I could see was like a disintegration of people talking who talk and not thinking, and their whole face disintegrates.
yeah, I had a vision in the middle of one of the impeachments when, I think maybe the first one, when I have a guardian named Frank. And what Frank does is he protects me from everything. And I've never seen his face. I know exactly where he lived when he was on Earth. And he's huge. And I've had a couple mediums that were
Did you
reading.
hear him?
He never speaks.
Okay.
He just stands in front of me and just blocks everything. He's huge. Anyway, one time a medium said, "Oh, can I see your guides? Would that be okay?" And I said, "Well, they're kind of, it's their being, not mine." But anyway, so she met Addie, who's a lovely, tall, statuesque woman. And then she went, "Whoa, can you call it back?" I mean, she said, "Wow." Oh, and then Frank was there. "You want to meet me?" You know, but I was in this hallway and I was watching these senators walk down to the end, and I could hear that wherever they were going was the end of them and the impeachment. And when I saw them going by, I remember Collins had pieces of gold in her hand. And I wanted to see where were they.
Senator Collins?
Yeah, it was all the senators. They were almost zombie-like, but they were marching down this hallway. And I said, "Oh, where are they going?" And I tried to go down the hallway, and Frank came and he pushed me back. And that is one time Frank did speak to me. I take that back. He said, "I've protected you from being part of this end of politics for all these years. You're not going down there." And then I could hear screams at the end of the hallway where they were walking to. It's almost like people walking into hell.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, well, you know.
Yeah, and don't be too hard on yourself, you guys. Don't think you have to be a magical spiritual person walking in the light of Christ or any high master. Just be connected in the realm with the now, and they will show you the way. And a lot of people are really hard on themselves. You know, we all make mistakes in the world, but and pray for the people you love too.
Well, I believe that this is a time for us to have compassion for those people. Those people I watched walking down is almost kind of like I want to see where they're going, you know, kind of thing. And there's no reason for me to have to see where they're going.
Right.
Just let them go off and do what they do, because we're all on different levels of consciousness. And when you get into doubts and fears is when you walk into the darkness.
Yeah, and the thing is like right now, just now my phone flagged that 19,000 people have been evacuated in the Greek islands.
Because of the fires. Yep.
Because of the fires. And that panic energy, that overwhelming sense of, oh my God, you know, that vibrates energetically, because the darkness loves fear. And it's hard not to be frightened.
Yeah.
But as long as you get to a safe space and you can be safe, that's all that should matter.
Right. And that's like living in the now. You can't do anything about what made those forests start to burn, and projecting what horrible things could happen afterwards is not going to help them either. But if I'm here right now and I'm doing what I can do to create calm in the world, that calm spreads out from you. And that's why the people tell me that when I've done the 9 candles before, they light their candles that night and they think of the kind of spiritual messages they get. They think about what they come up with. And it's like, when we act as a part of a community, it's in a service like this, we're reminded that we're not only assisting other individuals, say you've written your intentions list to help someone, but also, or a selected group, but at that moment, that energy is vibrating out. And when we're all doing it together, there's a thing called the 144,000. And it's when 144,000 of these souls get completely in tune with each other, that it's going to be like a burst out of light, like a nova that spreads out like warmth, and people begin to accept and to understand
Yes.
what we're working towards.
And like you said, and vibration, that's your key word right there.
Mm-hmm.
That which is likened to itself is drawn. You cannot be a vibrational mesh to something unless you're the same vibration. So that's what I'm saying. Be quiet. Always put out well-being as best you can. You can't fake it.
No.
You have to really mean it.
Right.
That's like when they said, when I was walking through the path and I had cancer and I was begging for my life, and that man said to me as clear as day, "What are you doing? You know there's no such thing as death." I actually felt embarrassment, just total embarrassment. And then I just said, "You know what? Into thy hands I commend my spirit. If I gotta go, I'll go." Because I was worried about my boys because they were young.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, you know what? I can't hold on like that. I have to let it go. And the moment I let it go, boom, something happened to me. And I've never been the same since. I'm not the same person from that moment from years ago. But what they've been telling me is this was always planned.
Oh, yeah.
I even had a dream years before this that a bunch of doctors were sitting in front of me, giving me horrible diagnosis, and I was screaming in the dream. And I was glad it was just a dream, but what I got was a bad diagnosis, but it was the switch. It was the change.
Right. Well, you know, if you want to believe in the law of attraction and you listen to all the tapes and you read all the books and realize you have to put on your forehead, you know, what you want, that you're going to draw it to you. But you know, you have to feel it, know it, and understand it. You have to have that sense of calm. And when you do that, even if you do it for a little time, then you remember what it was and you do it longer each time.
Right.
Touch it.
Before I was in any of this, when I used to read before without being connected, like energetically, I used to tell people, I made this up. I said, think of God as the master computer. So you're going to input a request, zoom. You're saying, you know, I want love, boom. And then what's happening is a lot of people, they keep changing it. Well, I want love, but he's got to be this or that, or I want this. So people are constantly changing what they desire. They're not really coming from within, so where they can plug into the connection and it's done. If you're constantly changing your mind or changing the outcome, you can't have what it is you want. Like even with money, if you're always in fear of money, guess what? The same thing happens over and over and over again.
Right.
And it's just, I've met so many good, generous people, but they can't seem to get out of that rut because they didn't have money. So they fear money. And until you let that go and almost stand in grace, knowing that, okay, this is here, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, you have to think through what your own programming is. And it's, you know, sometimes it can help to talk to somebody, but a lot of times it's just sitting down with yourself and saying, how has this always worked for me? And what do I do to make things better and or worse?
And stand in faith.
Right.
Because it's not even really, if you get down to the core, it's not even about money.
No.
Jesus didn't take any. Well, he got rich people that gave him food and bread, whatever, clothing, but he didn't live with a Mercedes Benz or like some of these preachers in these churches. They lived top notch with 10 houses. That was not Jesus of Nazareth.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be with them when they go to the other side either. I live in an area that's full of that.
Yeah.
And I've lived with, in full disclosure, my first husband was a theologue. I hung around with a lot of theologues when I was young. And a lot of what they learn and teach can be very, very rewarding. But it's really hard when you realize, if I don't play the game this way, I'm going to be out of a church, or I'm going to be out of this. My ex wanted to combine an AME, an African Methodist Episcopal Church, have them come to the little church we were at and kind of have a combined service. And he got pulled into the bishop's office and said, under no circumstances. This was in the early 70s.
Oh my God.
And, you know, and he never did become a minister. I mean, he never got his full ordination. And it's because he was doing things that should have led to his full ordination. And the guy who was in his class, what ended up, well, eventually she died from the injuries, but he was accused of having tried to murder his wife And I knew both of them when we were young kids. He was at the biggest Methodist church here in town. And he ended up, I don't know where he is now, but he was a real piece of work. And I can remember, man, he was the one everybody said, oh, he's the up and comer in the congregation. Trust me, I got out of the Methodist church as fast as I could. If that's up and coming, I'm out of here.
That's the problem with the quote unquote church.
And I'm not picking on the Methodists. I mean,
Right.
I could sit here and I could blab to you about every church in this town because it's just they're God Inc. And God never meant to be an ink.
No.
He,
But that's like what feeds the monster,
Mhm.
the orange crush. It's that hate, it's that negativity. Love it.
Mhm.
And mind you, this has always been around. Look at the Hitler reign. People love to hate somebody.
Well, Hitler killed all the main theologians in his country. Within the last 6 months of the war, he gathered them all up and killed them. Yeah, and they knew what was coming. I mean, they didn't leave because they said someone with understanding and patience and stature has to stay here. I remember reading a lot of their essays and stuff, and those were people dealing in real faith. Those are people dealing really from spirit. And that's what I find in our community, for the most part, is people are in here because their spirit feels like it's starving.
And isn't it good that this work we're doing, the people, they're coming, they're light workers, and they're growing and they're growing.
And then God shut down the churches for a while so they could have a chance to take a breather and say, do I really want to go back there? Maybe not.
Yeah. There's some good churchgoers, but most of the time.
I know some incredible Christians. I was raised with some. My favorite great uncle was an Episcopal priest, and Unc was just the most wonderful man. Yeah, he went around at one point and collected up all of the Civil War letters he could find in upstate New York where he was a priest, and he put together several books of letters that would have been lost forever if he hadn't done that. And he said the families needed to look at what the war had done to them.
Yeah.
I live in the South where people want to talk about how it ravaged their lives. Well, they have no idea. In the Civil War, when people came and got soldiers, like 4 or 5 brothers would all go into the war together and they'd all get killed together. I mean, left huge. I mean, that's why war is such a horrible thing. And that's why when we go back, I'll show you, I have an homage in crystals to the Ukrainian flag, and I see it every day. And it reminds me to light the candle for them and to pray for them to survive. War is just horrible. And I've done some past life work with war, and it's nothing you want to do.
But the entities, I had an entity visit me, a UFO person that wasn't of human form. He talked to me telepathically. And he was the one that told me that Mother Earth, or the Earth, is not mad at us at all. It's readjusting.
Yeah.
Some people act like the Earth's going to teach. No. The Earth is readjusting. Okay. And it's going to create some major, but it's like that movie 2012. I think I rewatched it last night. That the space guys were saying, look at the Earth, it's crystal clear. So, but he said, one important factor he said is, we will not allow you to blow yourselves up because it affects us too. So we have permission. We can't intercede with free will, but we can intercede with nuclear.
Yes, because that's really not there's so many intentions behind it. It's a confusing mess. I was talking with someone this morning who has a good friend whose sons have both been in the military, and one is still flying missions where he refuels planes around the Ukraine. And he said, we've just quit reporting the UFOs. He said, they're everywhere up there.
I love it. Thank you, Nancy. Oh my God. Thank you, Nancy.
Did you not see the report in December? The European Astronomical Society, not astrologers, but the Astronomy Society, they said, we've got to report this. And they were showing all of these things flying in. And I was talking to somebody who.
Can I look it up?
Sure. And they were reporting all these UFOs. And I was talking to a friend of mine who channels and works with that kind of energy. And I said, what's going on? And she said, they're up there disabling what Russia's trying to do.
I absolutely love it. Thank you. I'll try to look it up and even
If I can find it,
I'll put
let
it on
that
my
person.
community.
Yeah.
But I know Putin's got to know too.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Because, he's always threatening. Of course, he's not going to come through because it would be Armageddon, but maybe not. Maybe he knows he can't do it.
Can't do it anyway. Well, one of the things is the Russians were much more early adapters to accepting the aliens coming and offering help than the US was.
Right.
And so they thought they had a leg up, but what they didn't understand is they'll sit and talk nice to you, and they'll sit and talk nice to us. But if somebody's going to do us in, we're sort of like the planet that we're sort of like their test garden for a lot of different things, and they don't want us blown up.
Yes. Yes. And it affects the whole system.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I wanted to tell you, Oppenheimer was the one who first did the theory of black holes.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, nobody gave him credit for it, but.
Well, he was part of Einstein's crew that was looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so much more that they're finding out about black holes that is absolutely fascinating. But that's one of the waves that we've talked about in a couple of earlier shows, where the two black holes are circling each other on the far, far, far edge of the universe. And that's what started this wave that only the 30th of June finally got defined and named. It's called the Big Hum. If you can actually go and find soundtracks of it on the internet, and it sounds like a giant, very low ohm.
That is amazing.
And
what are those noises that some people take in their neighborhood? It'll be this loud noise. Mm-hmm. Is that it, or is that
no? It's not. It's you have to have a radar. You have to have a radio telescope to hear it. Okay. But there are things that can be. I know in one place in California there was a little cove, and it kept hearing these funny noises, and it ended up it was this one fish. They'd all get together and they'd vibrate together, and they'd send up the chain, and that's what people were hearing coming out of the water.
Wow.
Those fish, I mean, the world's an amazing place. Right now, I do a lot of work with ley lines and earth lines, which are the ley lines. Fun thing about them is they're sort of like the highway system for elemental energy to go around the earth. But when I first started studying them 2 years ago, if you had one that was 1.5 feet wide near you and you found it, that was a good sized one. They've now expanded to 4 times the width they were even a year ago, and they're getting tighter and straighter. They used to only straighten out for 3 or 4 days before the equinoxes and the solstices. Now they're doing it 30 to 40 days before, and they're staying locked. They're getting ready because there's a theory that so much new energy is coming into the earth from solar flares and photonic energy and just all kinds of things. If you're interested in this and you're watching, they're called geobiologists. If you Google that, you can find them, and especially Rory Duff. But what they think is going to happen is sometime in the next years, so much energy is going to build up in our core that the earth is going to ring like a bell. It's going to whoa. And if the ley lines and the earth lines are completely tight, then we can withstand it much more easily than if they were left loose and open. And the ley lines are where, there's a bunch of them that cross in Sedona. They create the places people feel are holy places. In England, they're all over the place. I have a client who actually belongs to a club, and they go out and find them and follow them around and measure them and stuff. And so that it's a really, really, it's a fascinating way to see the energy that Linda and I and any one of you that's ever had an intuition or got chills down your spine, you've run into some of this energy. And as I used to tell my dear, sweet, now departed husband, he was a physicist, and they were always trying to figure out, how do we do what we do?
Yeah.
They have to put a thing on us so they can follow it. And I'm like, I don't care as long as it works.
Yeah.
That's all I care is that, when I wake up, that I'm not deluding anybody. And I think that we're all getting stronger. I know people that used to be a little bit psychic are now a whole lot psychic.
Yes.
If you've been psychic like I was since I was a kid, there's no escaping it. And
No.
you kind of have to go with the roles, but we all feel better because we all feel stronger because we're all in this together and we're all lighting our lights, whether it's a white one, a pink one, a yellow one, a green one. All those are what are important to making us be whole.
And the other thing is, if you asked or you told the universe, what can I do to help?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. They
I'll let
won't
you know.
go. They won't let you go.
Mm-mm.
They'll change things in your life that look horrible.
Mm-hmm.
My husband left me, blah, 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 blah. But it's to open that door so
Right.
you can.
So you can be you. I know you always talk about how you were told you're going to do a YouTube channel and you went, I don't think so.
I said, I don't want to get up and brush my hair.
That's right. I don't want to be on a camera and I don't have to learn how to run these crazy
I
computers.
didn't know how to do this stuff. No. And they said, Linda, you will help calm people down.
That's right. And you
But
did.
they did say a third thing.
What?
If you let your ego get involved, we will remove your gift.
Aha. Yes. That's when I always try to be really careful because I'll have people come and you can tell they want an answer that you can't give them because the answer has to come from inside themselves.
Yes.
And all we can do is hold up our candle and our light and say, this is, come this direction. But if you think about Linda, the first time I saw you was during the Kavanaugh hearings. I was in Denver visiting a friend of mine who was she said, you got to watch Linda. She's had readings from you and stuff. She said, you got to watch Linda G. And we'd be sitting there watching you. And that was the weekend that I found crystals. That's the weekend I started building crystal grid.
Whoa, the door just flew open.
Yeah, that was the day and I said, that's all fun, but I'm not sure I could ever read electronically because I had read from the age of 12 to 71 in person. And so the idea of reading, I could do it on the phone if I had to, but the idea of reading on a screen like that was like so foreign to me. And my friend said that weekend that I was there, she said, you're going to end up doing it too.
Wow. And you did it.
And I
wanted to tell you too, when I was 8 years old, my parents were atheists. I had an experience, I believe I might have even died and came out of my body and was on the other side because I was in paradise. That I saw the colors, the smell. They asked me to come to this area where Jesus of Nazareth was. He was in all his glory. And I pretty much thought that must be Jesus, but I wasn't quite sure. But I was so frightened of him. And I knew I needed to listen to what he had to say. And I kept looking down, so I couldn't hear it. And then something told me, you better listen, you better listen. And I looked up and he said, my child. And boom, I went right back to my body. And I was ice cold, ice cold. But anyway, what I was going to say is, I heard that noise, that vibrational noise. It almost sounds like a chorus of angels or something. It's a vibration. It's the vibrational energy over there is a noise. And it's like a hum, like you said.
Like the universal hum.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may be coming to sing for us. We're just not all aware.
Yeah.
I've always had my skills, and I always kind of knew if I tried to manipulate anybody, I'd really lose it. And I actually ran into some healers that I worked with that did, and I saw what happened to them. And that's, if you watch someone crumble from misusing their power, it's a very powerful lesson. Don't go there.
Especially nowadays.
Oh, I know.
You can't get away with that because you will fall apart.
That's right. And
But we can't judge them. We can just take care of ourselves.
They made a choice, and that's all you can say. But about a year and a half ago, I was sitting here one day, exactly where I'm sitting, and I looked around, and all of a sudden, my whole life plan, like all the things that had led from this to this to this to this, all lined up. And I was sitting in my chair, and all of a sudden, I was sitting at the edge of the universe, watching all the galaxies swirl around. And they said, now do you understand how you belong? And
wow.
My whole life, I had been terrified of being alone. And I kept hearing, you're not alone. You've never been alone. You are a piece of this. This belongs to you. And it belongs to everyone. And you need to work to make people understand. And then I'm like, well, how do I teach them to come to this place? And they said, they can't. They'll come the same way you did on the day that they truly understand. And ever since then, I've not been afraid, except when the elementals said I had to go talk, that I was sitting around talking to fairies. But ever since then, I've been, whenever they say go, I go, because I understand we're all one, and whatever I'm saying is part of the journey for all of us to get to there.
Awesome.
I never met Jesus, I'm sorry, but I do have a friend who.
I met him, but there's more than him. There's more masters.
I know. I had a friend who, she was sitting on a park bench, and she thought all of what she was hearing. She actually went to a friend and said, I need to have a brain scan. I have a tumor. I can't be hearing all this stuff. And her friend who was very psychic said, no, you're just waking up. And so she was sitting in the park with her dog and wondering, how am I going to get through this? And this guy sat down next to her, and she looked at him, and she looked at him and she said, you're Jesus. And he said, yes, I am. I'm here to calm you down. I said, aren't you grateful that he didn't have a paddy wagon with a straitjacket right behind him? And she said, no, he wouldn't have. And that's when she learned, this is
that's what I keep telling people. That's my whole purpose of being here, is to help people cope, to get out of their own way, to be quiet, not to overthink it.
No.
Because we're too busy trying, even psychics. You have to be careful. Like I always say the same story, excuse me if you heard it 10,000 times, about the woman I was reading, and her mother came through, and I'm describing my client, the mother. She said, yeah. And the mother said to me in my right ear, tell her I can't find my left foot. So being a nurse, I'm thinking, oh, she was probably a diabetic. So I went to say, was your mom a diabetic? And this woman said, no, tell her I can't find my left foot. So I just said it. I said, your mom says she can't find her left foot, and was waiting for the woman to say, what? I have no clue what you're talking about. And she said, Linda, my mom died in a plane crash, and the only thing they found of her body was her left foot.
I know. It's so hard to explain to people. I had a reading I did, and it was a young woman. It was at a Halloween party. I'd met her the year before, because I did it every year. And she sat down, and I laid out her cards, and I looked at her and I said, why haven't you talked to anyone about dying? That was the look on her face. And then she just caved inside herself, and she said, because they know who he was. And it ended up, she had been almost killed by a guy she was dating. And when he got scared, so he took her to the hospital, and she was in a coma for 3 days. And by the time she woke up, the whole hospital staff had heard she got involved with a little bit of kinky sex. Things went wrong, and she almost died. And he basically said to her, no one's ever going to hear that story differently. And she was terrified. And she said, that wasn't the worst of it. And I said, you had an NDE, you went to the other side. And she said, that's a thing? I said, oh, it's a thing, kid.
Yeah.
And she'd never heard of NDEs. And I have several friends who've been NDEs. So it's near-death experience, in case you don't know what an NDE is. And I explained to her what had happened. And she and I got on my cell phone, and I found 2 groups that handled NDEs in this area. And I said, you need to go talk to one of these groups, because you're never going to be able to put the pieces together on your own. That doesn't work that way. When you've been to that other side, you need more help. So a year later, she's back at the Halloween party, looks completely different. Good color, happy, being with everybody. She said, I said, how's it going? And she said, are all those people like you, like the ones that are at that group? And it ended up, she'd gone in, finally told her story, met a woman attorney who was a part of the group. The woman attorney said, you have to go report him to the police, even though he lied at the hospital. So they went down, and the assault division wouldn't take it, because the other story was out there. Yeah, it was too long gone, and they had the other story. But they went to the sex crimes unit, and she reported it, and they said, if you take a lie detector test, we'll set up a file. So she took it, and they believed her. They got her whole hospital file, had their forensic guy go over it. He said, there's no way this was done with kinky sex. We believe her. So they said, we've got our eye out for him. 4 weeks later, he brings in another girlfriend, but this one's dead.
Oh my God.
So because they had the prior report, the police kind of gathered him up, took him in.
Was he going to use the same story?
Mm-hmm. And they brought him in and they said, this isn't going to fly. And the long story short, because they had her testimony ready to use against him, he pled out for life with no parole.
Wow.
And she said for the first time since the night that happened, when they put him in Huntsville 3 weeks before the party, she said, and none of that would have happened if you hadn't seen what happened to me. And I said, no, dear, none of that wouldn't happen if you hadn't agreed to come back. What upset you is you agreed to come back. You would rather have died than face what the people around you. And she said, yeah, that's true. And now she goes and lectures about NDEs and how to work with them.
Wow. When I was working in the ER at this hospital I worked at, one night we had the police department and the paramedics bring this guy in. And the thing is that I know this was kinky sex related because he had married this woman and his stepson was in the house when this happened. And somehow or the other, he had choked her to death. Ooh. But he was very sorry about it. Okay. So he calls 911. He walks into the kitchen. He takes a butcher knife and he cuts off his penis.
Yeah, that's the kind of remorse this other guy wasn't going to ever have.
No, this guy did something. He was just furious that he did it. So they brought it in a paper bag of all things. It was like, what's this? Oh, it's his penis. Oh, no, thanks. I've had lunch. But that was remorse. And everybody knew that he didn't mean, it was something else. Yeah.
That was consensual situation that got out of control.
Yeah.
Well, aren't we picking the happiest subjects?
We're just la, la, la. So, but anyway, I was going to tell you the story about my life. I'm just teasing.
No. But really, and honestly, I've always appreciated the work you do.
Oh, thank you, girlfriend.
I appreciate your read politics because I only read them on Sunday mornings.
Right.
And
last night, I don't know what I was dreaming, but something's getting ready to happen this next week. I'm going to tell you right now, because I know I was looking at all crowds of people, and it had something to do with Trump. And I remember some of my friends calling me, "Oh my God, Linda, you were right in the dream." So something's coming up next week. It could be that January 6th. I don't know. I couldn't remember the specifics. I hate when I don't remember.
Were they drawing a lot? Because that would be Georgia.
I don't know. I was born in Georgia.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was born in Fort Benning, Columbus, Georgia.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm an Army brat.
Oh, yeah. Army brats can be born pretty much anywhere.
Anywhere. So,
well, thank you so much for giving us your time, and thank you for helping us light a candle, and
thank you for inviting me.
Hopefully enlightening people. I'm going to go back to the table and blow the candles out. And people say to me, why do you do that? It's because if I don't remind people to blow them out, they won't have 9 candles at the end.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. And the scent in your candle is gardenia.
Ooh, I love gardenia.
I love gardenias too. I want to thank everyone for coming, especially Miss Linda. And we will watch for you as you're bringing people out.
And I still got my thing you did for me.
The crystal grid. Still doing those.
Yes, sirree. This is happening.
Yeah. You
do a beautiful job. Thank you.
That's your one that was for your writing your book. Empower.
Yeah, which, by the way, I'm supposed to be done by November.
Good.
In fact, Tana called me while we were talking. I'll call her back. She's flying out here to help publish it. So
good.
Books by November. Did I say September?
November.
You
said the right month.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank everyone in the community, and thank you for coming and helping us light the candles. Goodbye.